and he will be helping Professor Rose. Thank you and introduction to Professor Gary Rose from Sacred Heart University. He will be our moderator this evening. And thank you to the Cheshire High School Young Dems and Republicans for doing the timing this evening. I'd also like to thank all of you that are running and volunteering your time for your community. Thank you very much. I'd like to explain the format. Each candidate will have 1 minute for introductory remarks. Then each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer questions posed to them. Each question will be alternately posed to each party. For each question, an opposing candidate will be given 30 seconds for a response. There will be 2 sessions, an at-large candidates and then the district candidates. There will be a 5-minute intermission between each session. The same format will be followed for each. All questions have been submitted by the public, and there will be no questions tonight from the audience. Thank you. Professor Rose.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to begin with candidate introductions, not to exceed 1 minute. And we will begin with Mr. Talbot.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Chamber for affording us this opportunity. I want to thank the high school students for volunteering their time to be here tonight. And Professor Rose, I want to thank you for being our moderator. My name is Peter Talbot, and I am a lifelong Cheshire resident. I've served for the past 12 years as the 4th District Council person. And what I've learned is that residents will not only ask their district person, but they will ask any of the town council people. So all 9 of us hear from people all over the community. So I've been lucky enough to assist and answer questions for residents all over the great town of Cheshire. And this year, with someone so incredibly qualified to run as Patricia Kramer is in the 4th District, I decided to run for an at-large seat. I look forward to answering the questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let us now move to Ms. Pavano for 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm seeking my 3rd term on the town council. I have over 20 years of political experience, including 2 terms, 8 years on the Board of Education. I'm a mother, grandmother, taxpayer, and neighbor. I've lived in Cheshire since 1995. I'm committed to fiscal responsibility while maintaining the ability to improve and enrich our community. What an exciting time to live in Cheshire with construction at Bartland Park South, Ballinsocket, West Main Street development, 2 new schools, and Stonebridge Crossing. We have delivered responsible budgets while maintaining a fund balance of $10 million. We have increased our tax base expansion to the highest in 25 years. We carefully manage our capital budgets to reflect increases for our schools. It is more important than ever to elect experienced people on the council. Vote for proven results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Allard.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Dina Allard. My husband and I chose this beautiful town about 17 years ago for the same reasons most people do, for its historic charm, its great schools, and the wonderful people who live here. If elected, I am committed to being a fiscally conservative, fierce advocate for the people of Cheshire. I will support the town's economic growth while trying to preserve that small town agricultural feel that we all love about it. I'm a patriotic mom who believes in the values of democracy, respectful communication, and objective decision-making. I want to ensure that this community is inclusive so that everybody can enjoy the freedoms and liberties that our veterans fought to preserve. As the proud wife of a law enforcement officer, I am committed to supporting the Cheshire Police so that they have the necessary resources to ensure our public safety. An election is an opportunity to guide our future based on our priorities and values. To me, integrity, transparency, and fair representation is something we should demand from our elected officials, and something I, as well as my fellow Democratic candidates, are committed to providing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bowery.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. And I'm going to thank the Chamber for doing this. This is a great public service. It really is a good educational event. And thank Dr. Rose again for leading and our students for helping. You're very valuable here tonight. I appreciate the honor of serving on the Town Council for the last 4 years, for a total of 20 years service since the early 1980s when I was first elected. I've also served over the years as Troop Committee Chairman and for Troop 92 Boy Scouts, and I currently serve as Chairman of the Board of the Regional Water Authority. My wife Stephanie grew up in Cheshire as well, and we're proud that our three children have passed through the Cheshire school systems. It's no accident that we have a great school system. It's no accident that we have robust economic development in town, refurbishing of old properties like the underground gas station, the old Colorama building, and many others. And with the overwhelming support of the school referendum to build 2 new schools to replace 3 very old schools going smoothly so far, and with our tax rate keeping well under the rate of inflation, we have a lot of success to talk about as an incumbent council member. Having spent time going door to door, I can tell you people say they're happy with town, and I look forward to your questions tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Cheshire Chamber of Commerce and Professor Rose for having us tonight. Good evening. My name is Greg Wolf, and I'm an at-large candidate for Cheshire Town Council. I have lived in town for 20 years, and I live in an 18th century house that was my grandparents'. Both my grandparents served this community, working tirelessly to build the town we enjoy today. I'm proud to continue that legacy of service. I aspire to combine our town's historical legacy with a modern, forward-looking perspective. I will champion environmental concerns, alternative transportation, smart growth, and transparency. I will advocate that our taxes do not increase while working to provide more and better town services. I will work to be proactive in communicating, having discussions before tough choices are made. It is a privilege to be here tonight. Thank you. And it is a privilege to be able to ask Cheshire for their vote November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you for Professor Rhodes. I'm delighted to be here. I started here in town in 1964 as a newlywed. I moved into a growing town of dairy farms, orchards, and growers to raise my family. South and North End housing developments and a new Highland School rapidly changed the landscape. We grew as a community of spirited volunteers, supportive neighbors, and engaged parents. 59 years later, my family grown. I've retired after operating a successful retail business for 28 years and a national career in floristry. Cheshire is still growing, but some things don't change. Farms and orchards are still part of our landscape. New schools are being built, open spaces being saved, and we are still a community of supportive neighbors. As we face new growing pains, it's imperative that we continue orderly and careful development to maintain our community identity in the context of past history. I'm proud to have been a part of an experienced town council term for 10 years, and I'm committed to working for you to maintain the character and heart of Cheshire.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pearson.
Good evening. Thank you all. Good evening. Thank you all. Good evening. There we go. Good evening, and thank you all for hosting tonight. I'm Fiona Pearson, running for town council. I'm a mother of 2 daughters who went through the public school system here in Cheshire, Darcy, Dodd, and high school, the Cheshire High School. I'm a professor and chair of the sociology department at Central Connecticut State University. At Central Connecticut State University, I also serve on our university planning and budget committee, so I'm used to dealing with numbers and making difficult choices, particularly during these last few years. I also serve on Parks and Rec Commission. We've overseen the development of Bartlam Park, and very excited about new plans for Mixville Park. I also serve in our town sustainability team, and we successfully received bronze certification for the town of Cheshire in 2021 and 2022. And finally, I serve as the co-chair and the executive director of Coalition for Sustainable Cheshire, a nonprofit that we formed here in Cheshire to bring together municipal leaders, elected officials, nonprofits, and businesses to address issues defined by sustainable CT and statewide initiatives. I look forward to continuing with this work if elected this next season, and I look forward to hearing your questions tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. Slocum.
Thank you so much. I'm Tim Slocum, currently chairman of the town council. It's always been my honor serving on the town council. I have strived to make meaningful contributions to the town's steady record of excellence. It takes the entire team, but my commitment to that team and to that end is tireless. People want to live, work, and invest here. Cheshire is a safe and financially secure town. Cheshire is in an unprecedented time of growth and prosperity. We're designing and building 2 new elementary schools. We are expanding Bartland Park. Everyone of all ages is just going to love that new park. Arts Place is relocating to Ball and Socket, further buttressing the catalyst for a new village center in Cheshire. Finally, there's been an enormous economic development of Stonebridge Crossing in the North End and many others. This is an important election. Stick with this experienced team. We are laser focused on Cheshire taxpayers, planning for responsible growth, and undertaking all of these objectives in a collegial and bipartisan manner. I ask for your support November 7th, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tedisco.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody, for coming. My name is Lou Tedisco. Thank you. I forget that sometimes. And I'm a candidate for council at large on the Democratic ticket. I've lived in Cheshire since 1980 with my wife Paulette. We've raised our 3 children, Jill, Joseph, and Amy, here in Cheshire. I believe in public service. I have spent 25 years. I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to spend 25 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and most recently for over 20 years, the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I've sat at this table a lot of times in Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals roles. I hope someday to sit in it as a town councilor. I'm going to make a commitment to listen to people if I'm elected. I'm going to take your calls. I'll read your emails if elected. And I'm going to take 1 day a month or one hour, a couple hours a month, find a location at the library or the town hall and be available to meet with people. So that's my commitment. If I'm elected, I will be available even to sit face to face and hear what people's ideas are. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. We have one other candidate that could not be with us here tonight, and that's John Mylone, who's a candidate for the town council at large. He did send a statement, which I'd like to read now. First of all, let me apologize to both the chamber and my colleagues for not being here this evening. Business obligations have me in Colorado this week. When I ran for council last election, it was my objective to provide my professional skills and business judgment while supporting a nonpartisan approach to governance. Once elected, I was pleasantly surprised by the level of cooperation among all of our council members and the ability to work together to do what is best in the best interest for our community. I am honored to have served with this past council, and I am proud of our accomplishments. I have found that each of our council members brings a unique perspective and their individual experience to our deliberations. I believe I have added value to our work based upon my engineering, community planning, and environmental background, as well as my many years of business oversight. Given the challenges we face moving forward, I hope I have an opportunity to continue to do so. Most importantly, it is my hope that whoever is elected to our council, they continue to operate in a cooperative manner, avoiding the temptations of partisan politics and always doing what is best interest of our residents. I wish everyone best of luck this evening. Sincerely, John Mylone.
Thank you very much. We will now move to the questions. And again, just a reminder that you have 1 minute to respond, and then there can be a 30-second rebuttal from the opposing party. And I will select which individual would like to rebut it if there is more than one who raises his or her hands. Okay, well, there's a whole range of questions that have been submitted, and I have selected some to start the forum with. And the first question I'm going to direct to Ms. Pearson, and it's, what are your thoughts on providing affordable housing in Cheshire?
Affordable housing is key to any successful community. It is one of the action item areas in Sustainable CT that is addressed. Sustainable CT identifies 13 different action items. Homelessness is one section and affordable housing is another. It's no secret that in our town, we are in need of a significant increase in percentage of affordable housing available for individuals who work in our community, teachers, and we're talking about people who may be coming in and teaching or entering in as paraprofessionals, even police officers. It's difficult looking at the median price of homes in our community to be able to afford to live here. A way to address these needs is multifamily housing. We don't really need, in my opinion, any more single-family housing in this community, but multifamily housing along key routes that won't increase congestion and traffic in town is the kind of housing that we ought to be focusing on. But right now, I think we're at 4 to 5%. 10% is what the state has as a goal, and that needs to be a goal that we need to achieve.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to respond to that? Okay, Ms. Nichols.
Fiona's absolutely correct. We are desperately in need of that. We have some progress going on. We have some new buildings happening now, one on Highland Avenue, which will have affordable housing on it. There are some that are proposed to be going in along different routes in town, but there's a very big project going on to plan for the area on West Main Street and right around the commercial area on West Main Street. And there are plans to include the possibility of some affordable housing there. So it is a serious need. We also support the seniors that are here with other programs that help them stay in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the next question. This one will be directed to Mr. Bowery. What are your thoughts on the town developing the West Main Street district area into a town center area?
I think it's an excellent idea, and it is continuation of what's been done for years. The steep grant that was received several years ago allowed sidewalks to be extended to that area and allowed some other accoutrements to happen. And the big push was with the ball and socket has made a big push for that area. But we've also had other businesses that have turned over. Rebel is in there and doing a great job. And our existing businesses that are stepping up and making themselves remodeled and refurbished. I also think we had that meeting the other night, and a consultant is hired that's going to help us with the plan so that we can potentially have a more homogeneous and more pieced together process. That it's really a nice little village founded in 1827. It's going to continue to be a little village with the help that we're giving it. And planning and zoning will help allow some people who want to remodel their properties to fit in with that plan. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone? Yes, Mr. Wolf.
So I agree with everything he just said. I've worked with ball and socket for the past, since its inception, since I stood up at that podium explaining the project with my friends. It's a critical bit to attracting new people to this town. One thing that we need to desperately do is bring new active people into this town in a positive way. And I think encouraging ball and socket's growth and all the growth on West Main Street is critically important to the future of this town. Having a concise little neighborhood area is really important. And I hope everyone keeps supporting us.
Thank you very much. This question will go to Mr. Talbot. What efforts should we follow to protect the remaining open space in Cheshire before it is all McMansioned?
You heard a lot tonight from my colleagues on the dais about development in town and how rapid the development is. It is critical that we maintain that open space, but we have to be strategic about the way we do it. And I think the previous councils have done a very good job of that. We're always looking at open space as it becomes available and seeing how it fits in. Bartlam Park South is a perfect example of a piece of property that the town purchased and now is going to be passive recreation. I think it's critical that we continue to look at those, but we have to do it in a strategic manner.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody who would like to respond to that for 30 seconds? Mr. Slocum?
Yeah, I'd be happy to respond, and it's really, it's totally agreeable what Peter said in my estimation. These are land use issues, however. The issues the town gets involved in specifically, and when I say town, I mean the council, it's largely with open space acquisitions. Those are all decided upon, usually determined by invitation from a owner who wants to sell or something like that. And we get a lot of those offers, and we often have to say yes or no based on what we, number one, feel is strategic, number two, feel we can afford. And the rest is really a planning and zoning concern as far as the development and furtherance of the town's correct development. But I do applaud the efforts of what's going on West Main Street, where they're actually sort of form-fitting a beautiful development potential. So to that, I guess that's not a rebut, just a supportive answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to the Republican side, to Ms. Nichols. What do you think should be done with Darcy School and Chapman School?
That's an interesting question that hasn't been decided yet. There have been many options that are being looked at. When they are vacant, we have many choices, from selling the properties to reusing them for some town purpose that we can expand into those spaces. I think probably there's no decision made yet, and they will be repurposed in a way that will bring the best use for the town of Cheshire, either developing them into some other use for our town or selling them and using those funds to help fund the building of the new schools.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to respond to that? Yes, Mr. Talbot.
So I'm going to echo pretty much what Mrs. Nichols said, that part of the school projects, the building of the two new elementary schools, was to free up these two schools, Chapman and Darcy. So what we are looking to do at this point is to offset some of the cost of the two new elementary schools by either repurposing or selling off property that we currently have. It almost gets back to the open space question, but we have to recoup some of the money for those properties.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the Democratic side for 1 minute. Ms. Allard. Okay. If you are elected, what are the top priorities you would pursue in the next 2 years?
My priorities would be to connect with the community and advocate for the community and ensure that we're providing transparency with the decisions that we make. I am concerned about some of the most recent decisions with respect to the flag policy and also with respect to the decision to move from Chespercott, which is a decision that affects all 30,000 members of our community. And there really was not a lot of transparency with that decision. So my priority would be to make sure that we continue to move forward and also do so in a fashion that is inclusive and engaging with the community with transparency.
Is there anybody who would like to respond to that? Mano?
I'd like to make two comments, and one is two schools come in on time and the second thing would be holding our tax rate adjustments to less than inflation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim, Mr. Slocum. Okay, here we go. This individual says that he or she is a long-term resident of Cheshire on fixed income. This individual is very concerned that the new schools, Bartlett and other projects will lead to such high taxes that he or she will not be able to live here anymore. So what is your plan to keep Cheshire affordable?
Well, just about everything they're concerned about is reasonably true. It is going to cost a lot of money to fund a couple of new schools. add $90 million to our debt service. What we have done as a council is try and offset some of that borrowing with having reduced our spending on capital projects for really a long time. We're down to a relatively low level of debt service now. It's also, we are directing, we're just going to have to cut things elsewhere going forward. We're just going to have to come to smaller capital budgets, more likely, and work towards keeping people here while maintaining the services we can. And I can't say that won't be without challenge. What I do say is that's when experience really is essential to the community. We've stared at budgets over and over. I have for 16 years. Budgets are complicated. You do have to say yes and no. You do rely on town management to help you steer the ship correctly and rightly. So I bring to the table the perspective and the ability to do that in the town's best interests. I can say no and will say no. I will say we really have to do that. And I will do my best to keep it in a way, but I can't sugarcoat this. It is going to be expensive.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, Mr. Tedesco.
The things that a town councilor must do is try to provide things that people in Cheshire want and need, like new schools, while always thinking about the effect on the budget. I've done some door-to-door campaigning over the last couple of weeks, and nobody's come and said we should be spending more money, but they have come and said that will I watch the budget, and should the town council watch the budget? So this is a challenge, I think. With respect to people on fixed incomes, that's a real issue. And it seems to me that we could probably make some accommodation for persons on fixed income, take a look at their taxes. We don't want people to be moving out of Cheshire because it gets too expensive to live in Cheshire. So I would look to make some accommodation for persons on fixed incomes. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, we have to watch our timers if we can and be respectful of the time, so we can get to as many questions that the public has given us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that went to Tom. All right, this question is to Mr. Wolf. The group Coalition for a Sustainable Cheshire has been very active in the community over the last few years. What, in your opinion, can and should Cheshire, and specifically the town council, be doing to promote sustainability initiatives on a town-wide basis?
One of the main concerns that we have as a town is waste disposal. In the next few years, we're really going to need to focus on how and where our waste is going to. One way we can do that is by reducing food waste. Every day, people throw away food scraps, and that's, I think, 40% of the food that we throw away. So to reduce the cost of trash disposal in Cheshire and in nationwide, honestly, we need to work on how we get the food waste out of our system, whether it be composting. There's initiatives that have been proposed in one of the in Chapman School for the students to throw their food waste directly into a system that takes it out of the trash system. I think that's critically important, and it'll save money in the long run. So that would be my primary focus.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr.
If I
Bauer.
may expand on that, because certainly there's nothing to rebut on that. Greg's right. Our solid waste committee, led by Councilman Walsh, is looking at doing some food waste recapture and a way to help. But also sustainability means with using more energy efficiency. And our new buildings are being built that way, the new schools, as well as some retrofitting of buildings that we have existing with light replacements and things. So sustainability is a lot of things that we are doing as a town. We're far ahead in some of the energy replacements. We were far ahead in starting our recycling plan 30 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so on to Ms. Pavano. This issue was mentioned briefly by one of the candidates. The town is currently considering leaving Chesprocott Health District to join the South Central Health District. Do you support or oppose this potential move, and why?
Thank you for the question. Part of the reason why this is being considered is because we want to continuous efficiency of our services. And this would provide an office right here in the town hall. But we have not made a decision on this matter. We are gathering information. We will be meeting with the South Central in the near future. We had a wonderful audience participation, and we listened to all of your questions and your concerns. And we will be addressing all of that. We will not be making a hasty decision. So I want you to know that we will take this seriously and be addressing all your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. Pearson.
Yes, I too attended that meeting, and I was frankly grateful and impressed by the audience attendance that night. The number of individuals who spoke that evening to the facts regarding this issue. And it was clear from the agenda that there was intended to be a vote that night. It was on the agenda to leave the district, and it was on the agenda to join a different district. So that was the intention of the town council that evening, very clearly. But as a result of the massive numbers of individuals, particularly individuals, that's a, okay, I'm gonna stop. You get it.
Thank you. Good. And I believe that leaves a 1-minute question for Mr. Tedisco. Okay. Earlier this year, the town enacted a new flag flying policy that would, with few exceptions, ban the flying of any flags on town-owned properties other than the American state and town flags. Do you support this policy, or would you alter it in any way?
Perhaps a complicated issue. I was at the meeting earlier this week. Also, town council for the town of Cheshire talked about Supreme Court precedent and some legal requirements with respect to flying of flags and concern with having a proper policy that would protect the town in the future. So I think that there's room for some change in the policy. I think there's room for the flying of the POW, MIA flags, perhaps the pride flag also. But I think it has to be looked at carefully in terms of what the legalities are. And I haven't heard all those, so it's something that I would want to study further.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody on the Republican side that would like to respond? Mr. Slocum?
I think there was a lot of clarification that was needed. And that public hearing, well, that public information that came out of our regular meeting was very helpful. Bottom line is, this is not a policy that excludes flags. It's a policy that indicates the flags that are acceptable in town. So it conforms to the Supreme Court decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've gone around once. Everyone has been given a question here, and we've had rebuttals. And now we're going to do a second round of questions. And we will begin this time with Ms. Pavano. Since industrial development will happen, what could we do in the near term to review and make changes in building height and setback requirements to ensure visually appealing structures and not feel crowded and overbuilt?
Well, I think this is a planning and zoning question, but it is something that has been discussed. It is utmost for us to keep the atmosphere in Cheshire as a nice, small town community. So we certainly do not want to see tall, ugly buildings. So I'm sure that our planning, I have very much faith in our planning and zoning, and they will address this issue, I'm sure, while keeping the wonderful town quality that we now have in Cheshire.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Tedisco.
Well, yes, that is a planning and zoning issue, and I don't disagree with anything that Ms. Pavano just said. That's why we have zoning. We have zoning rules in terms of setbacks and building height and such, to do just what the question was asking about, keeping Cheshire a pleasant, attractive place to live. So we do need to continue to look at our planning and zoning commission's activities, certainly, and our planning and our zoning codes, in fact, to continue to do that. So I think it can be done.
Thank you. On to Mr. Talbot. How does the town council intend to create a sense of inclusion and acceptance for our town's youth, the future voters?
I think both parties, and you see evidence of it here tonight in the volunteers that are working, is that we have some young Dems and some young Republicans here providing volunteer efforts for this forum tonight. So I think both parties have reached out to the youth. I think we need to continue to do a better job. I actually sat with Dr. Solon today talking about an effort that possibly will tie in the 50-year anniversary class of the high school with the current senior class at the high school. I think by doing so, that will do a better job of engaging some of the students there.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to respond? Okay. Ms.
I'll
Nichols?
respond to that. And Peter, you're absolutely correct. We've both parties have worked very hard to include them. I think it may not be totally a council issue. I think we have to encourage our parents to get our kids involved in things and come with us to these meetings and come to observe. I think schools can do a better job to teach them about the process that we go through here at the desk. And so I think it is important. We continue to reach out. We are glad that you young people are standing up for a position, and we thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. A question for Mr. Bowery. Teachers are leaving the profession, and many towns are having difficulty hiring new teachers. Why do you feel teachers are leaving, and what can be done about this?
I know COVID had a lot of teachers leaving. My wife is in the school. She's a school psychologist, so I'm very familiar with what's going on there. And I think we're very fortunate that Dr. Solon has a very good relationship with Quinnipiac and their students there, and the ability to work with them, the students who are taking education as a course. In the profession, they have the ability to retire fairly young if they started early and go on to doing other things. But I think I know in Cheshire, some were enticed to come back after COVID waned, and they did come back. Some retired. There were a couple that actually retired and came back. So having a great school system to work in is a great job, and therefore they're going to want to stay, and that helps keep them here and keeps their longevity. But I also think encouraging people to get into the profession is important as well. So we get a renewal.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody who would like to respond? Yes, Ms. Pearson.
I would say we really need to continue investing in our schools. I know as a result of this last season and climate, the first week at the high school was miserable this year, 90-degree heat in those buildings, and I see all the students nodding their head. You can't learn in those environments. I know we have a plan, but we were 3 decades late in constructing that plan. And I know it's going to be expensive, and we're going to have to think about those individuals on fixed incomes who are going to be potentially hurt, and how can we redress those issues. But we can no longer let our students learn in those learning conditions. They can't. And we're not going to keep teachers that way either.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Ms. Allard. How will you as a council member help seniors afford to live here, stay in their homes, or how will you offer affordable senior housing so others can stay in the town they raise their families in?
Well, thank you for the question. I think that's a very important one. Myself, I feel as though I'm a bit of a sandwich generation where I have my aging parents and also my children that I'm trying to raise. So I absolutely see the need for senior living and affordable senior living here in our community. As a newcomer to this arena, I can't tell you that I have the answer to that. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that I will work within our budget and do everything that we can to provide assistance so that way we can provide housing for seniors in our community.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Bowery?
Thank you. Your town council is at work with that issue right now. We increased significantly by 50% the income levels. Now seniors making $81,000 or less, or disabled veterans, can get a tax break with the town. And that's an increase from $57,000 income. So a huge increase. A lot more people are able to take advantage of it. Almost 500 households. We've got 10,000 households in town. Almost 500 households took advantage of that program this past year. So coupled with the schools, and we know there's going to be the big expense for the new schools, was the increase in senior and disabled tax benefits, as well as some debt service payment savings we have.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that question was to Ms. Allard. So this next question is to Ms. Nichols. What impact will the property reevaluation have on our taxes?
Well, it will have some impact, certainly, because the property values are increasing just because of the current climate in the country. It probably will be I guess probably revenue neutral. It's probably going to, with the people who are coming in and the people who are leaving, the new houses will bring more taxes, and the older houses, or some of them are going. I really am not aware of any particular impact that's going to have with our taxes until we see the results of the valuation. But I know the valuation will be raised.
Thank you very much. Anybody like to respond to that? Mr. Tedisco?
Well, you're right. I think revaluation is supposed to be revenue neutral because while the value of property goes up, the mill rate can be reduced so that it is revenue neutral. And the town council should be watching that to ensure that people don't get huge increases in taxes and to adjust the mill rate accordingly.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Wolf. I know you talked a little bit about sustainability, so this question seems appropriate for you. Anyway, this individual is concerned about climate change and the environment. What is the town council going to do about improving the fight against global warming? And what will you do as a counselor to support environmentally friendly public policy?
One of the first things I'll do is work to get more electric vehicle charging stations in town. There's a push for more electric vehicles, and that will be continuing. Second thing, an item I'm really passionate about is alternative transportation. Getting more people on buses, getting more people on bikes, getting more people walking. That alone will reduce congestion and pollution, and just get humans moving. And I think that's critically important. I think that's a role that town council can play in being the positive leader in that, I think is important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Climate change? Anyone?
I don't think there's anything to rebut. I think it's important that we continue doing the things that we are doing. And Greg mentioned some of them, that we want to continue to be energy efficient. I think things like housing, land use that has residences with commercial, like we're talking about increasing potentially in the west section on West Main Street, is helpful because then it's a walking ability and you don't have to get in your car to go someplace to shop. So I think that's important. I think Stonebridge Crossing is exactly that. You've got 450 residences going on there and 160,000 square feet of retail that people will be able to walk to.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's see, the last one was Nichols, right? So on to Mr. Slocum. Yes, right, here we go. Well, this is a very general question that came in. How can the town of Cheshire support small businesses?
Very good question. I guess the best way to support small businesses, certainly to advocate for them with, first of all, fair and reasonable taxes, but also, support our Chamber of Commerce, support our Economic Development Commission with some of their suggestions and ideas, and just generally with outreach. We have an Economic Development Coordinator in Andrew Martelli. He's been an excellent find and catch for the town of Cheshire. He works diligently with all of our businesses, small and large. So we're there in addressing these important issues, and we'll continue to do so. And I guess I would be more welcoming to any contact with a small business if they are not afraid to reach out, and because we're not afraid to talk. So that's essentially it.
Thank you. Anybody like to respond to that or add anything to it? Mr. Talbot, yes.
I agree with what Mr. Slocum had to say regarding small businesses. I think when you look at the town of Cheshire, we are primarily a lot of small businesses. We do have some cornerstones, the Bizzutos of the world, but we have a lot of very small businesses. And indeed, Andrew Martelli, our economic development coordinator, does visit our businesses on a regular basis. We are fortunate enough to have a great Chamber of Commerce as well that supports our local small business community.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have asked the questions of all the Republicans. Now we have 2 Democrats remaining here. This is a very general question for Ms. Pearson. What is your plan to protect the quality of life that makes Cheshire, Cheshire?
Well, that's easy. I mean, that's the mission of the Coalition for Sustainable Cheshire, of which I'm the executive director and co-chair. Like I said, there are 11 action items. They range from economic development to land conservation, to homelessness, to waste diversion, as Greg alluded to before. It's a very comprehensive approach. Wellness, what Chespercott provides. In fact, we talked extensively with Chespercott regarding many of their education programs, the programs provided for our seniors, the vaccination clinics. These are all part of what makes a strong quality of life. And so I would like to see us continue to work towards those efforts. I did speak in front of the town council a year ago regarding Sustainable Cheshire, and one of the things I advocated for was someone to assist us in addressing those action items, because a team of volunteers really couldn't make the change that we want. And so if we want to see that positive change, we're going to have to invest. But there are long-term gains, and I think they're worth that investment in our community.
Thank you very much. What makes Cheshire, Cheshire?
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah.
I'd like to make one comment on that. We have just expanded our social service office, so I know that we're dealing with the mind and the body and that section. We have a new building that we just purchased across the street from the town hall with expanded hours, privacy for people coming in with problems and everything. I think the town is addressing this issue and is doing a very good job. We recognize it, and we are trying to make it better.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Tedisco, you get the last 1 minute here. Cheshire is currently in the midst of the first phase of a school modernization project that aims to replace and/or upgrade all existing school buildings in the community. This first phase will result in 2 new elementary schools being built and is expected to be completed in 2026. How should the town progress with the remaining phases of this expansive plan? What should be prioritized next?
At the other schools. All of Cheshire schools are fairly old. I think that the newest one is Highland School, which was built, I believe, in 1970. So all the Cheshire schools are fairly old. I think what should happen next is we need to take a look at all the schools, see what life safety or other improvements they need, the roofs, the windows, the heating. It was a big deal this last couple of years with COVID, having proper ventilation in schools for children's health. So I think that we have to take a look at the remaining schools and make sure that they're safe and effective learning environments.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I agree with you, Mr. Tedisco, and we are in the process of doing that. The School Modernization Committee presented a long-term plan when we first decided on the schools. And we are committed to continuing that and researching the next steps, which will be addressing each of the other schools in turn. We've also just decided to have an agreement with an energy company that is going to go in and assess all the energy needs for all of the schools, including the old ones. And so we can do some projects with some federal funding and grant money to improve the air conditioning and things in the high school, as Pearson said. So we are working on that as we go.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe we've gone around twice with everyone. I do have one question, okay, which can bring closure to this. And you can decide amongst yourself who will respond to this, okay? But when voters walk in the voting booth and cast their ballot, or if they do an absentee ballot, they're going to see party labels, Democrat, Republican. Now, I've been hearing in this discussion today a lot of common ground here. So I'd like to know what those labels mean today to your party and your party. 1 minute, right.
Do you wanna- Well, personally, I think it means nothing. I think our government is run in a very nonpartisan way. I think you have the 9 council members. You'd be hard pressed sometimes to know which party they are because we agree on so much. You know, I sit next to Peter and I vote with Peter. I mean, that's, you know, that we don't disagree on an awful lot. I think you'd be hard pressed in the committees and the appointments that we make. I don't even know on the school building committee who's Republicans or who's Democrats, other than the chairman used to be a member of the Board of Ed. That's the only reason I know that. It doesn't matter. It's who's best and what's best for Cheshire. We're able to use our resources and pull together what's best for us.
So what I will say is the same as Mr. Barowie, that 99% of the time we do vote the same way. However, there are issues, and I had this conversation with the Herald's Peter Prohaska the other day. There are issues when it comes to things like the flag policy, when it comes to things like staffing our boards and commissions, where there is a deep divide and it is very clear what the two sides are. So I think it's important that on those issues that both sides are heard from. I don't think that there is a bad thing that can come from civil discourse. Good, solid debate brings about better solutions. So I think it's good to disagree once in a while. And over those issues that I mentioned, we certainly disagree.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our debate. Thank you all for your very substantive comments. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we get thing, I think.
Said no. Yeah. Said no closing statements, right?
No.
He said no.
No closing
Yeah.
statement. Oh, well, that was my,
Sure.
me too. Right.
It's going to be interesting. Right along there.
So are you going to ask the ones that weren't asked?
Pardon me?
Are you going to ask questions that were not asked?
Yeah, we're almost out of them though.
I know, then we just go into.
I'm crossing out which ones I've asked already.
Thank you. We would like to thank Professor Rose for being here tonight and doing this for us. This afternoon, Old Bishop's Farm baked a pie for him this afternoon, so it's still actually warm. And he's very lucky it's a full pie because it's been sitting in my car this afternoon. So Professor Rose, thank you for your time and helping us.
Real pleasure. Thank you. Okay. Should I have it now? Okay. Thanks. Yeah. All right. Okay. Ready to go? Okay. All right. Everybody knows what the format is. I ask a question of a candidate who gets 1 minute, and the timekeepers are here.
We'll do the introductions first.
And yes, and then we will also have introductions before that. And as far as the 1 minute presentation goes, then there is a 30-second rebuttal. But before we actually get to the questions, I'd like the candidates to introduce themselves, and we will begin with Mr. Jinks, not to exceed 1 minute, please.
Thank you to the chamber and for Mr. Rose and students for being here to host tonight. My name is Jim Jinks. I've had the great privilege of being the town councilor in the 2nd District since 2019, especially in these times when our democracy is on the ballot each and every election. Serving on the council is a responsibility I take very seriously and one that I greatly cherish. Before the council, I also served for 2 years on Planning and Zoning Commission. I have an undergrad degree at UConn and a master's in public policy from Trinity College. In September, I completed the Certified Connecticut Municipal Official Program. I was also recently named to the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments Advisory Committee for their active transportation plan. In this capacity, I'll be able to advocate for Cheshire's inclusion in that regional plan for safer streets and more pedestrian bike-friendly infrastructure. As a member of the council, I'm proud of the progress we've made toward new schools, our much-needed grand list growth, the improvements to our parks, and strong overall fiscal health in our town. We have a lot of work ahead to make our local government more transparent, inclusive, and responsive. Well, we also have the difficult task of trying to make Cheshire more affordable for everyone while investing in important priorities such as public safety and keeping our schools the best in the state. Local elections are the ones that really count in our everyday lives. So please come out to vote November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move now to Mr. Deming. Please, an introduction not to exceed 1 minute.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me. I've been living in Connecticut, Cheshire, Connecticut, for 78 years, very comfortable years. And I've noticed over time that I was too comfortable because things were happening in our community and around our community that affects our living standard and our ability to live a fulsome life. So during my discussion tonight, I'm going to bring in several of the effects, impulses, no, the wrong word, probably the effects of outside intervention with our town's workings. We have had a great deal of information that has been passed through the mass media on exactly what is important for us. And I will continue that discussion later.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kramer, 1 minute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chamber. Thank you, Dr. Rose, and thank you, everybody, for being here and being part of civic engagement. Democracy is nothing without our engagement. My name is Patricia Kramer. I currently work with the Connecticut General Assembly in Hartford. I've been involved in Cheshire in a plethora of ways over the last 7 years. I have an interesting perspective that I bring to town, having come from an inner city, grew up in the Bronx. We moved here for the schools. My children have had a very successful time. I have a freshman football player who also ran track, and I have a graduated freshman in college who was wrestling and volleyball. This town is beautiful. I'm running because I don't see myself and those like me properly represented in our local government. And without representation, we have no voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Veliver.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Veliver. I'm currently the town councilor in the 1st District for the past 6 years. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for this important forum. I'd also thank my wife and children for their support, love, and understanding over these past few years. I've lived in Cheshire for almost 45 years. My wife and I are raising our 4 daughters here, and we want Cheshire to continue to be a wonderful place for all to live and possibly raise a family, as well as a place where seniors can continue to live without being forced out by high taxes and existing and new businesses desire to operate. The current council majority team has done a great job in keeping Cheshire a place where that can happen and keeping Cheshire one of the best places to live and do business in the state. And the Democrats in the prior panel all seem to agree. It is essential that we continue to focus on keeping our taxes low to protect property values and keep the town affordable and attractive to all residents and businesses, maintaining and improving our excellent education system to properly educate our children, including continue to modernize our existing infrastructure and in a fiscally prudent and responsible manner, and continuing to foster quality economic growth to increase our tax rolls. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. I don't think I could read that fast, but I'm going to do the best I can. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you, Dr. Rose. This is a great forum to have every year. I'm Don Walsh. I'm currently the Vice Chairman of the Town Council representing the 3rd District. I am also the Chairman of the Solid Waste Committee and serve on the Ordinance and Personnel Committee. My wife, Jennifer, and I lived in Cheshire for 27 years. We've raised 2 wonderful children. and we ran one of the largest charities in this town called Cheshire's Lights of Hope. I have a degree in business economics as well as a graduate gemologist degree. Over 4 years ago, I started a small business in Cheshire, DW Gem Services. Many asked me why Cheshire. My answer was easy. Cheshire is a town where people support and care for each other. I'm happy to say my business continues to grow as many other businesses have continued to grow. These past 4 years have been extremely challenging at times and extremely rewarding at times with the growth of the new schools, our economic development, and the future of the West Main Street District. We have a bright future to look forward to, and I'm excited. My background as a community leader, business owner, and homeowner, and an experienced town councilman is the reason why I want to continue to serve and represent the 3rd District.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Nastri.
Good evening. So I have lived here long enough to have been in the first class when Highland School opened, and been here essentially the entire time since then. I live in town now. When I graduated from high school, I spent a little bit of time in the Army, worked in a number of different capacities. Oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone hear any of that? My educational background is I have a BA and MBA, and I'm a licensed attorney. I am a combat veteran. I served in Afghanistan in 2010. When I came home, I used the GI Bill and went to law school. My 11-year-old niece says my campaign slogan is, I'm going to serve my community the same way I serve my country. So I want her on record as being my campaign manager now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Rose, you and I met each other once. Do you remember when that was? 18 years ago, when we were both inducted into the Cheshire High School Hall of Fame.
Cheshire High Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. Yes, I remember that. Yes, I did meet you there. Yeah. Okay. We're going to begin with the questions now. First question is, and again, just a reminder, you have 1 minute to respond, and then if anybody on the opposing party would like to respond, you'll have 30 seconds. And I know there's only 2 of you on that side this time, but that's the way it is. But we're going to start with Mr. Veliber. I believe this question is somewhat germane to you. What, if anything, is being done to enforce the blight ordinance passed by this town?
Excellent. Well, thank you for that question, because that was when I got elected 6 years ago. That was one of the things that I specifically sought to have the council adopt. And so I thank my fellow councilors for looking into that and going with that and ultimately adopting it, because prior to that, there had been no real opportunity for the town to enforce some of the issues that we were seeing around town. So what has been done, we have a zoning enforcement officer / blight enforcement officer who has been doing a tremendous job in seeking out properties that are blighted and properly noticing them. And we have seen a significant enforcement actions over the last few years to really curtail some of that issues. And without that blight ordinance, we would not have the ability to address some of those problems. And many neighbors have emailed me and called me to thank me and others, council members, for what the blight ordinance has done for their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone on the Democratic side like to
I think I
respond?
missed the memo where we could pay you to throw us softballs like that, but I don't really have anything to rebut necessarily. Just that the blight ordinance, I think when we were, during the public hearing, there were a lot of people in town that were concerned about, neighbors kind of abusing it against other neighbors, but that hasn't been the case. So it's been effective in its execution and has helped us as a town to eliminate properties and continue to work on properties that are, clearly blighted. So that's all.
Thank you very much. And I'll stay with you, Mr. Jenks, for this question here. This individual is a long-term Cheshire resident. This individual loves the character and quality of life that makes Cheshire such a great place to live. Yet this individual is very concerned that the speed and amount of residential and commercial development will turn Cheshire into a different place. How do you respond to that fear?
Well, I would probably commiserate with them that it is, I mean, just in the 10 years that I've been here, Cheshire has become a different place in some respects as far as how much commercial property is turning over, which isn't a bad thing, but how much traffic has increased, I think, over just those 10 years. And, you know, something that I've been pushing for and people are kind of well aware of as far as, you know, an interest in trying to develop more, you know, access people in terms of walking and biking. That's something that we can do as a town to, if we do more in terms of infrastructure there, to help in terms of the traffic and also make our streets a little safer. But we also need to do more in terms of supporting our police department, perhaps growing the force to have I think have a regular, probably every shift devoted officer to traffic enforcement, because as everyone in the room probably knows, you know, traffic and speeding and going through red lights and so on and so forth is kind of an epidemic, and we can do more. We should do more.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody who would like to respond to that?
I'll take that
Mr.
one.
Mr. Walsh, rather.
Yeah, that's a good question. And we all have a concern for the people who are on fixed incomes or who are aging in this community. And the best way I could say how we keep Cheshire is Monday night at the West Main District meeting, where they showed the formed zoning that we're going to be doing, where they even get down to the type of windows we're going to allow in these buildings. So that kind of stuff is going to make this town, you know, attractive for years to come. And I think it will keep the quaintness of Cheshire.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll go to Mr. Deming with this question. Since economic growth has been a top campaign issue over the last several election cycles, what role, if any, do you believe the town council should play in balancing economic development with a desire to maintain a certain small town feel about Cheshire?
I believe the outside influences that are pressing on the town council, they're doing an excellent job to maintain a balance between the comfort and the exposure we have to we don't have walls around our community, and there are going to be and are many influences that are going to attempt to confuse us. We just had one in the schools that related to a gender issue, and those kind of social issues are going to increase, and we're going to have to be aware that many, many more are on our way, including the cost of energy. We have a pretty serious problem with the cost increase in energy, and we're going to have to deal with that as we proceed.
Thank you very much. Would one of you like to respond to that?
Sure, I'll take the rebuttal. Cheshire can support our growth through prioritizing town, drawing in people to our agricultural framings, our orchards, our bedding plants, coming here to experience what Cheshire is, which is especially in the fall. Also, the bringing in new residents will support the businesses. So the more we improve our schools, the more families that come here. As we grow, we need to also supply people who will support our businesses.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will stay with you on this, Ms. Kramer, for the question. Would you vote to have Cheshire leave or disband Chesprocott and join Southington Health District, and why?
I'm really happy that you asked me this question. I was watching the town hall forum this week, and what I was left with were a lot of questions. Right now, that decision I don't feel can be made. I'm a fiscally conservative, moderate Democrat. I run my household the way I would, with the budget, the way I would bring it to the town council. I am all for saving money wherever you can, however you can. The only issue I bring with me to the Chesprocott decision is there are too many questions. There are too many promises without the ability to show the transport of services would be equal. Initially, we'd be saving money, about $126,000, which is a fraction of a point of our budget. Not to say that that's not a lot of money, but what are we losing for that line in our budget? We need to have answers. I do not feel that enough answers were provided to make that decision. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes, thank you. $126,000 is a lot of money, and it is a significant amount. On top of that, it's 43% savings in fees to our business and residents across the board. That's big. However, like Trish said, there's still questions that need to be answered. So that's why we did table the vote, and we're going to hopefully get these questions answered in the near future. But there was a lot of information that came out the other day, and we still are trying to go through it all. So, we can't make that decision today. That's why we tabled it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This question will go to Mr. Nastri. This individual is very concerned about climate change and the environment. What is the town council doing to ensure that Cheshire is doing its part to fight global warming and support environmentally friendly public policy? And what will you do as a counselor to ensure that?
Thank you. So as a candidate, I'm not doing anything, and I'm not familiar with what the town council is doing. As a council member, it will be incumbent on me to find out from the community what they are looking to do. Mr. Wolf talked about recycling food products. That sounds like a great idea. Also, charging stations. Are those things that we actually have some control over? Can we change zoning to get those charging stations? Are those charging stations premature at this point? So those are questions. We need to gather information and then come up with answers for it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jenks?
Thank you. I mean, I think as was mentioned in the previous session, the council's aware, obviously, of things that we need to be doing to, be kind of doing our part in terms of climate change. The new schools are going to be much more efficient. But as a community, there are things that I think we need to start to take on, perhaps, that are coming pretty quickly, and especially the solid waste issue. Some sort of community-wide composting or food waste diversion program, I think, is probably something we need to move toward, and something we've talked about in the solid waste committee. We're participating as a council, and the community is as well. We can do more, and we will do more.
Thank you. And I'll stay with you, Mr. Jenks, for your second 1-minute question. Earlier this year, the town enacted a new flag flying policy that would, with few exceptions, ban the flying of any flags on town-owned properties other than the American state and town flags. Do you support this policy, or would you alter it in any way?
I don't support the policy as it stands. I think it's pretty clear that it was hasty and not thoroughly vetted. There are several exceptions in the policy. Basically, for anyone that isn't aware, it's American flags on all flagpoles, with the exception of our state flag, Cheshire flag. My colleague Peter and I were asking to have an exception added to that, being the pride flag at the Yellow House for 1 month. So that's one flagpole for 1 month of the year, which seemed to us to be pretty reasonable. Our town attorney, informed us that as long as in the policy, it protects the town. So I don't support it as it stands, and it's pretty simple for us as a council to make that change. Given that it's a policy that we enacted.
Thank you. Does anybody would like to respond?
Thank you,
Mr.
Don.
Nastri?
So the Supreme Court, surprisingly enough, in a unanimous ruling, held that towns have First Amendment rights, and they can express those sentiments in a flag policy. So, if we have a flag policy that expresses our official sentiments, that's fine. I don't really have an opinion about the pride flag versus any other flag. I'm certainly open to that. But I think we would have to be open to other flags of, that support other groups as well.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh. Okay. In your opinion, is Cheshire an affordable community in which to live? And what would you say to residents on fixed incomes or experiencing a stagnation in wages who worry that big projects and increased spending on the local level will make it more difficult for them to remain in town?
Thank you. And that seems to be the question that a lot of residents are asking, especially those who are on fixed incomes. And the council is very concerned about those people. And that's why, like Mr. Barry said, we increased by 50% the senior and disabled veterans tax credit, which helped 500 people in this town. So it's important for the council to continue watching that. And yes, when I start seeing the price of rents going up and homes going up, it does help some people, but it's going to make it more difficult. That's why we need more affordable housing in this town as well. I agree with the previous people who talked about affordable housing, and we're getting some. And just to be clear, affordable housing isn't low-income housing. It's I think the average salary is in the $80,000 range. So it means the teachers, the police officers, the firemen can still live in this town and the town that they work in. So I'm all in favor of things like that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kramer, would you like to respond?
I agree with Mr. Walsh that the town council has actively been working on ways to reduce economic stress on those of a fixed income. Tax rebates, all sorts of ways in which we can facilitate ease of living so that they can remain in Cheshire. Cheshire, I know, is home to a couple of different fixed income, Elam Park, so to speak, but we do need more affordable housing in town. Like Fiona Pearson said, we are well below the state recommended percentage, and I know that it's something that the town council can and will be working on.
Okay, thank you. And I'll stay with you for your second 1-minute question. I think you're going to get 4 questions over there today.
I think we should just get 3. I'm going to petition the town council.
Okay.
Too late.
All right.
Next week.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you believe Cheshire needs to upgrade infrastructure? And if so, where?
The schools. For decades, the schools have been aging, just like every other community in America. The schools, I know we started hearing about school modernization being put together at least 5 years ago, possibly 7. And the point was belabored and discussed and finally set to referendum. And not just 2 schools, which are now currently being built, but all of the schools are in desperate need of repair. I have 2 kids that just went through the process of days off because of heat, days off because of cold, gas leaks, you name it. I do appreciate the infrastructure that is being worked on. It makes Cheshire more beautiful, but there are things that we have to look into, not just the schools, but we need to look at transportation. I know my son, it took him 2.5 hours to get back from Waterbury on the bus. That's something we as a town council can maybe affect that process for those of us that don't drive.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deming?
Yes, I believe that it needs to be said that the policies that are driving the decisions that our community make have been misconstrued, and in fact, we've been lied to on many levels, on many subjects. And I'd love to get into this, but now even the climate issue, you remember we used to call it global warming? Well, now it's just climate change. I don't believe that that is an accurate direction, that we are going so concerned with climate change. It's a hoax.
Thank you. And I'm going to stay with you for a question. If you are elected to the town council, what are the top 2 or maybe 3 things you would do differently from the current council?
Well, first of all, curiosity drives me, and I investigate what problems are, and I try to find the truth behind many of the issues that are presented here in the town council. I think they've done an admirable job in balancing things. But we need to be more aware of those influences because they're driving issues within our town. For instance, the new schools are considering geothermal energy. Now, I've done some investigation on it, certainly minimal, but my question remains that I have not been able to find a suitable data set from an existing geothermal project. Now, I wonder why. Why aren't people who have invested millions of dollars and proud of what they've accomplished been able to share the information they've learned about geothermal? There isn't any. I suggest that our council should be hesitant in going to that type of technology.
Thank you very much. Would either of you like to respond?
Sure. I mean, 30 seconds is not a lot of time to talk about all the different things that I hope we can do in the next council. But, one is the traffic study that we have put on, I think, next year in the capital budget that we desperately need in town to look at ways to improve traffic and make the streets safer. Another thing is a sidewalk review policy that I've been trying to get through our planning committee. That's also something. But the greatest issue I think we have actually, we're doing a lot of things very well, but we need to get people more involved. We need to get people in our community more aware of what's happening. We need much more transparency and much more inclusivity and responsiveness from our local government. And it's not only a problem here, but around the country. But that is, I think, a great need and a great concern, should be a great concern for the next council.
Thank you very much. Come back to Ms. Kramer for this question. Apparently, there will be 2 elementary schools that will be built and expected to be completed in 2026. How should the town progress with the remaining phases of this very expansive plan? Specifically, what should be prioritized next?
So the School Modernization Committee that's been in effect for years has paid consultants to evaluate the schools, evaluate their problems, rank what needs to be done and how safe they are and how best to proceed. The town council then reviewed these plans and voted on the 2 elementary schools being completed first. I, however, would have started with a middle school, but I'm just happy progress is being done. This could not be left any longer. So having a child who went through the high school and a child who went through Norton, Dodd, and now the high school, my children won't be in any of the new schools, but this community will benefit from them greatly. They all need to be modernized, every last one of them. The next school I would do after these first 2 is the middle school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Having served on the School Modernization Committee for several years and being on the council, we did create a 3-phase plan to modernize all our schools. It's a long-term plan, but it's a plan that we had to do. And I agree, the 2 schools are a good start. We are trying to get air conditioning put into Doolittle because that would be the only elementary school without air conditioning. There's more to be done, and 15 seconds is not enough to tell you. So I'm going to stop there, but if people want to ask me later, I'll be happy to tell them.
Thank you. Okay, on to Mr. Velaber here. What efforts should we follow to protect the remaining open space in Cheshire before, as one individual said, it becomes all McMansioned?
Well, thank you very much. That is a great question because, one of the things that we've been talking about, we've heard it tonight as a theme, is trying to keep Cheshire sort of have that small town feel. And I think that that's very important to have for any community. It's what sort of made Cheshire all along. But we have, over the years, the town has done a tremendous job of acquiring and setting aside a lot of open space in town, either through the land trust, but also through acquisition by the town, through the town. In fact, Cheshire is one of the largest percentages of its population or land mass set aside in open space in the state. So this council and prior councils have done a tremendous job of trying to keep that open space. Now, obviously, there are economic factors, especially now with residential development, right? When there is land available, that obviously we're competing with the opportunity for people to try to, build on that and develop that. But we, as a council, have worked hard to create budget amounts so that we can acquire property when it becomes available, so we can increase our already large amount of open space. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kramer?
Something that's not often talked about when it comes to Cheshire's open space is the economic factor it takes to maintain these properties, whether they have hiking trails, walking paths, horse trails. They take a certain amount of town staff to keep them safe. And that's something as we move forward in procuring and keeping Cheshire viable with nature, we need to also maintain the properties that we already have. I think that's an important thing to consider when buying up properties.
Okay, thank you very much. You have another question.
Are you sure it's not one of those guys over there?
It's totally.
I know.
I'm gonna go sit over there.
Yeah, I know. We could do that. Yeah. Well, the last group said there was no difference between parties, so we could just do this. But Mr. Jenks, I believe this would be your fourth question, correct?
I have no idea.
I think it is. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay.
I haven't been
Well,
keeping track.
How's this one then for you? What do you think should be done with Darcy School and Chapman School?
That obviously it is a very good question. I can sit here and speculate and draw up sort of magical plans, but these are properties that being town properties that at some point we'll probably have to turn over to a developer or to someone to use in some way. It's hard to say. It's going to be several years from now we make that decision. So, there'll be, when the time comes, there'll be, I'm sure, lots of different options. Could they be turned into affordable housing? Sure. If someone were to buy the property and do that, could they be used as a town for some facility? Maybe, but we don't know what that might be. So it's really a question for a later day. It's not something we can really put a lot of detail in right now. 4 or 5 years from now, who knows? We may need to use one of those buildings for some school facility in some way. I don't know. We'll have to see if we continue to grow the way we're growing. So right now it's just hard to say, but it's good to have a lot of options.
Thank you. Anybody like to respond to that about Darcy?
Yes. So certainly it's going to be a plan for the future. And I don't think we're going to have an answer at this moment. But I would like to have us be directing our attention to how we think about using those buildings. Net zero, how we're trying to build our school under those principles is a fallacy. And we certainly wouldn't want to encourage the use of that bias when we try to retrofit a school if we have to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we move on to Mr. Nastri now.
Pickleball courts and jujitsu mats at those two schools. No one's brought that up. It's very popular.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've done enough on chess pro-cut right now, and so we won't.
Thank God.
Yeah. How about this question here for you? It's a very important question, too. How does the town council, if you are on it, or what will you do, let's put it this way, if you are elected to the town council, to help create a sense of inclusion and acceptance for our town's youth and who are, of course, our future voters?
Am I on? I'm on. Thanks. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what impact the town council will have. I would certainly put forth my time as a council person to talk to these groups. You know, we have pride groups and young Republicans and pro-life and all sorts of different groups out there, and to try and make them aware of how important it is for all of us to be together. And as a quick aside, so that's as much answer as I've got on that. I know it's not great, but when it comes to inclusion, I was actually asked to run for this seat, and John Malone had a great deal of influence with my decision about saying yes or no. And what he said was that you are not going to get a strong divergence on the council. These people commit their time and their effort and their sincerity to the operation of this council. And you know that when you're up there, you're with good people. So I think there's some inclusivity for the council itself.
Sure. Thank you very much. Ms. Kramer.
Watching my kids navigate through community here has been a really interesting experience. And one thing that I've noticed is if they're asked to engage, they do. If they are left to their own devices, they won't. I'm currently working with the football team, cross my fingers, to volunteer with the Cheshire Food Drive, which takes place on November 4th and 5th. Getting a large group of children together to tackle hunger that weekend will definitely be a role model for more civic engagement from kids in the community. We go to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so you have another question. Okay. All right. I believe this is your fourth question. All right.
Good enough.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the town developing the West Main Street district into a town center area?
Considering this is my fourth question and one extra from them, I just want to take 2 seconds to say how honored I am to be amongst some of this community's most valuable members. Whether you're running for a position or have been in a position, they give so much to this community through Sustainable Cheshire, Ball and Socket, Bike. It's amazing to be considered amongst their peers, if I may be so bold. I also want to acknowledge what's going on in the Middle East right now. I have a sister-in-law who lives there, and two of my niece and my nephew were just called up. And I just want to send my heartfelt thoughts to them. And we come to this town council and we're talking about traffic and all of these amazing problems that we have. I just wanted to put some perspective on that. Now, the question was West Main Street, Ball and Socket. I interviewed Alona about 5 to 7 years ago. To watch this project grow has been an ultimate dream. I've been a supporter of it. I know Greg is on the board. I hope for just amazing things. And I love the fact that our local state government is so generous with trying to support and fund that project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Walsh.
Well, part of that, the West Main district is in my district, so it will have an impact on the people who live in that district, but it also has an impact of everybody in Cheshire. The Ball and Socket has started it. Andrew Martelli has done a tremendous job with economic development, creating this this flow district that's going to show how Cheshire could still be a quaint little town and have a walk around neighborhood. And I think it's a great thing. It may be 10, 15, 20 years from now, but we're getting ready for the future. And that's important. That's what this council has to do. Prepare for the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And this, Mr. Walsh, would be your second 1 minute question here. Tommy?
Two?
Okay.
Yeah, I had 4.
This is your second one.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you doing as a town councilor to ensure, or at least promote, school safety in Cheshire?
Well, we support our Board of Education when anytime they come to us with safety features. The new schools, there's a lot of new safety features that are going into the new schools. We created the I don't like to call them man traps. I call them people traps in our schools, so that it's a 2 buzzer system to get into the school, and we're trying to make that as safe as we can. We work together with the police department and the Board of Ed to make sure that anything they need, we're going to supply. Safety is probably one of the utmost important things that I think this council is concerned about, especially for our children. And if our children aren't safe, then nobody is safe. And that's something that anytime they come to us with anything, we will seriously look at it, especially with the officers that we now have in the schools. And I think that gives the children a little bit feeling of safety to see the police officers in those schools as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't have anything I'm not disagreeing with Don at all. The council has been very supportive of the Board of Ed and the projects that they've undertaken to make our schools safer. Included in that is, I think, a new communication system that has been is being installed soon or will be in the near future. But I just want to kind of redirect us a little bit as far as, we spend millions of dollars to make our schools safer and have our students feel safer. But it wouldn't have taken a penny to keep the pride flag at the flagpole at the Yellow House to help a certain group of students feel safer and more included in this community. So safety is not all about the front door. It's also about how we treat our students as well.
Thank you very much. So let me just, for a moment here. You want to ask, Mr. Deming has had 2 questions, correct? You've had 2. Mr. Veliber, you've had 2. Mr. Nastri, you've had 2. Mr. Walsh, you've had 2. Ms. Kramer, you've had 4. And Mr. Jenks, you've had, what, 10? 2, 4? All right. You want to, we don't need to go around again, Dave. You want me to ask them questions? Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Then I've been asked to ask a question again of Mr. Deming. Okay. And this is a very general question, but if you're elected to the town council, what are you going to do to make Cheshire remain Cheshire?
Well, first of all, I would try to help with the education of our citizens. You see, if you look around in this room, every bit of the clothing you're wearing, to the cosmetics and the perfume, is made from fossil fuels. 80% of the energy we use in our nation is from fossil fuels. And we have now an intention by our leaders to rapidly transition to something that is a very low-grade type of energy production, solar and wind. It won't work. We're going to be in trouble this winter with energy costs, and our council should be aware of it. Thank you.
Anybody like to respond?
What was the question again?
Keep Cheshire, Cheshire.
Was that what it was?
I think so.
Yes.
Oh.
Keep Cheshire, Cheshire.
Oh, I mean, one thing, obviously, I think we've talked about a little bit tonight is a thing that makes Cheshire, Cheshire and make it special is our farms and our orchard properties. I mean, over the years, we've been very good at scooping up open space properties that when they become available and they're affordable and it makes sense. I think we do need to kind of think about shifting that focus a little bit away from just sort of forested properties to the farm properties, and think about ways going forward that we can kind of preserve that agricultural heritage in some way. Supporting these farms, supporting the orchards, but also in other ways perhaps that help us preserve that heritage going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Nastri, we have a question for you. Okay. Traffic is heavy on Main Street out here, Route 10. And I know this question comes up in these debates or these forums every 2 years. And it's getting worse. And as a counselor, what would you do to possibly help alleviate that?
I have an answer to this question. I can fix this. No one with children is going to like my answer, but it's very simple. And what it represents is the tension between the issues and the solution. So if we made it so that only an 18-year or older senior can drive a car to school, we would alleviate almost all of that traffic. But that creates another problem. And so this is the tension between the issue and the solution. And I think as a council member, we need to address both of those. So I'm not actually recommending that we do that, but that would solve the problem, right? It would also create an entirely new problem. So they're complicated issues. They're a function of the growth that we're all talking about. That's going to happen. I don't think people are going to get out their cars for a better sidewalk. So we're just going to have to deal with some of these things. There isn't a great solution to those.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kramer, would you like to respond?
I remember watching the town council debates 2 years ago, and I remember a really heated discussion about possibly building a bridge from Bartlett into the high school. Everybody had these great ideas, but school traffic between certain hours on 10 is definitely something that you try to avoid in this town. Also, I think what really would help is more traffic safety measures. I know that Route 10 is a state road, so getting the lights better prepared, maybe turn lanes would be great. But I also know that opening up shopping centers in different ends of town is going to alleviate some of the concentrated traffic to coming to South Cheshire to shop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we are going to conclude with a very broad question. It's the same question that I asked the at-large candidates. And you can decide amongst yourself who can answer it. But when voters vote for town council, they're going to see on different lines, Democrat, Republican, DR. So my question to you is, what do these labels mean to voters today? Well, yeah, amongst yourself, you can decide who to go.
I'll handle it first over here. So one thing I've noticed over the past few years is the representation on the town council has been veering a little bit further right than center. And I am a moderate liberal. And at first I thought that was okay because, hey, we're neighbors. These are amazing people. But recently, I have noted a few different policies, notably the flag policy, and then a rush to move away from Chesapeake that alarmed me. We're in a state of national politics seeping into local politics. I'm worried. Without a voice, how do we protect our libraries, our books, our curriculums, our schools, our teachers, our women's health care? If that starts to become a local issue, without a voice, our town council is 7-2, 7 Republicans to 2 Democrats. Without a voice, we cannot create the debate that needs to happen without proper representation.
Thank you very much. So what does it mean to be a Republican today? What does the R stand for?
I'm not going to answer it like that. I agree with David. I think that at the local level, it does not reflect a difference between the parties or the people. If you see the people sitting up here, there has not been a tremendous difference between the answers you've gotten on any question here. There are a couple of issues that have been hammered on: inclusivity, the pride flag. Okay, there's 2, but outside of those 2, almost all the answers are the same. Slightly different degrees. So we are a community. There are national issues. Certainly there are national headlines. There are national groups that are vying for power. They're not sitting in this room. They're just not. And so I think it means an awful lot less at our level than it would at a national or state level.
Thank you very much. And we do not have closing statements tonight. And so I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for your very, very informative and substantive comments. And good luck to you on Election Day. Got it done. Thanks.